Well, hello there. So my name is Daniel, so now you know. I want to do something different that I did in other videos. So you know how in other videos I just watch movies and it would be either really good, kind of good, or just mediocre. I want to do something a little bit different. Since this is award season and we don't really have an award season, it's time to bring out the best movies, or just the ones I've heard are the best, or just movies that are just coming out, which is just Wonder Woman. Her. Good sci-fi always talks about what if. What if we decide to do this? What if technology did this? And great romance is about the chemistry of the two characters, and if we believe in it or not. Her does both of these excellently. When it comes to Joaquin Phoenix, we believe in him, and he makes a vulnerable performance like he always does. And Scarlett Johansson is also very vulnerable in this movie, but it's awesome because she only uses her voice in the movie. Yeah, she's not even in here, but she does a great performance. That feels real and feels human. The thing that makes this movie stand out is depiction of the future. The future is not dystopian, and the technology is not trying to convince us that's all futuristic. Like, technology is very understated and very minimalistic. It feels more natural and more comfortable. And the evolution of Samantha's character, or just the evolution of an AI, is so interesting. How at some point she wants to pursue being human and having a real physical body, and then later on she realizes she can't do that. So she decides to embrace her AI capabilities. It's pretty neat how they wrote it, and the ideas that they put in the movie, like the boundaries that people put for themselves, social boundaries, the way people project things on each other, and its ideas on loneliness. It's an incredible film. I think all of y'all should watch it. Baby Driver. Oh man, I love this movie, and I love Edgar Wright. His editing style is so inspiring, makes me want to make movies myself. I guess you've heard all that before, but what people don't talk about is his relationship with his cinematographer Bill Pope. Before Bill Pope, I didn't think his movies necessarily looked great, but when Bill Pope comes into the screen, everything looks better. Everything about this movie is better with its cinematography. But it's not just that. Its character designs in terms of costuming, actors, and just how they act in general prepares itself to be an instant classic from day one. Uncut Gems. Adam Sandler is incredible in this movie. They balance out his character by, yes, making him do all these dumb mistakes, but then also show his unbearable pain. And those balanced together makes this character of Howie so investing, so interesting. Also, the way they use color and music in this movie makes you so stressed out all the time. This story goes from mistake to mistake to mistake, and it goes more stressful and stressful and stressful until the end, where all you're left is release. And it's not necessarily a happy release, but it's release, finally. This movie's amazing. Even though the way I'm talking to it might not sound amazing, it really is a work of art. Lady Bird. Greta Gerwig is a genius, and I think we all know that. One way I just think this movie's incredible is its story about home, and how we just basically, when we live somewhere for so long, we never get to see how good it is, or at least we never think to ourselves that we like the place we live, until we're not there for a while. And when we come back, we realize this place is home, we love it, and it's incredible. And just this idea that maybe Sacramento is not the most highly coveted place to be, it still is lovable, and the details are so interesting. And the other thing that this movie is so interesting is its idea of paying attention equals love. That's one way of how you know she loves Sacramento, is that she pays attention to the little details. You can tell that's how her mom loves her. Even though her mom's so hard on her and so picky about how she's supposed to be, you can tell that she pays attention to her. Let's talk about Lady Bird herself. She's angsty, disrespectful, but we kind of see her where she's coming from, and it's funny and just enjoyable to watch, even though it's stupid. Interesting to see her make all these mistakes intentionally, even though she knows, hey, I shouldn't be doing this. This will not make me happy, but yet she does it anyway out of spite, or she does it anyway because she wants to make herself look cool. Whatever it is. Da 5 Bloods. Now I've only seen 2 Spike Lee movies, and that's BlacKkKlansman and The Inside Man. I gotta say this one's my least favorite, mainly because it drags and the characters aren't as interesting. However, that said, Paul is very interesting. I don't always like him all the time, but none of his scenes ever drag. Also, Chadwick Boseman's character, Norm, is the emotional heart of this movie. He is so captivating, and he's so inspiring, even when you see this entire world just turn their backs against this community. He has this idealism of strength, and I find it interesting that all these movies from Spike Lee are about mainly the black community, and how they have their own struggles with oppression. You never get to see it from the other side, from Vietnam's side. And not to say that they don't still talk about that, and I think that's interesting, this idea that these men and women fought in the Vietnam War, and they still don't get the recognition that they need. They even say that in an example of, like, Rambo. Also, the aspect ratio changes are so cool, and they're not as cool as I thought it would be, but it is still fun. All in all, although this movie dragged, I still had a lot of fun with it.
Back to the Future. Now, I've seen this movie 100 times, but this time I want to see it a little bit different. I didn't want to consider it like a classic, but consider it more as what it is, a genre movie it's a comedy, and it's a sci-fi film. And I feel like so many comedies aren't as memorable or as creative as this one is. Every movie just kind of feels like a throwaway movie, whereas this movie has so much creativity in the box. Also, the structure of this movie is so airtight, and no joke in this movie is used not to give character, and it's worth every praise that it gets.
So, there's one director that I've been meaning to watch lately that I finally got to watch this month. That's Paul Thomas Anderson. I've heard a lot about him, but it's time that I actually experience his work myself.
The Master. Now, Joaquin Phoenix and Philip Seymour Hoffman are in this movie, and I think they balance each other out, because Joaquin Phoenix, though he's really good and really believable in this movie, he is extremely unlikable. Just because his character, how he was written. It's not bad quality writing, it's just so immensely annoying. And I think that's the point. Philip Seymour Hoffman is quite different. He's very charming, very intelligent, and he is in that dynamic, but within one another is so investing. Also, the way they depict a cult and a cult leader is not in a scary way, but in an understandable way, a realistic way, one that I just can't get my eyes off of. Why are these people so nice? Well, it's because they believe this and this and this. How are they challenged? It's so investing. Yes, this movie was sort of hard to get through, but you know what? I don't regret it. It's pretty good. There Will Be Blood. Now, obviously, if you're going to talk about this film, you got to talk about Daniel Day-Lewis. He is one of the greatest actors ever, and he proves it in this movie. I think this is his best role. He has this reserved intensity that's so hard to not pay attention to, and it's so captivating to watch. Every relationship this guy has in this movie is so interesting and also tragic in every single way you can think of. The cinematography near the end is so crisp and so cool. Though the principles they use are retro, it does look very modern and very interesting, cool, beautiful to look at. I'll just say what Quentin Tarantino said. Trying to talk about this movie is like talking gibberish until you've seen it a second time. I'm gonna wait a second time to see what I think. After all that experimentation, it was time to watch something I was a little more comfortable with. TMNT. Now, when I was really young, I watched this movie all the time. It was a pretty fun movie to watch. But now, how does it hold up? Well, I gotta say, the premise of the story is 100% cool and really interesting. Great way for any movie to be, with a long lore and history. However, in execution, I do believe the story needed another draft. Not because it was bad or poorly executed, but I think it could have been better. More airtight, more satisfying, and maybe a little bit longer. Also, the CGI, I think, could have been rendered better. Though that one fight scene with Raph and Leonardo is incredibly rendered, the final battle is not rendered very well at all. And this is the first time I'll ever say this. A long take does not work for this action scene. But the beating center of the story of Leo and Raph is so incredible. It's worth watching, and it's worth even buying, which I did, and I am proud of it. This is a pretty good movie. 6 Underground. Now, I remember watching this movie a few months ago, and I really liked it. I thought it was a cool movie. But now watching it again, what did I think? Though on paper, the ideas and the motion that was supposed to be put in here are perfect idea, should make even $1 billion, execution was so incredibly... Well, let me explain. The opening action scene is really cool. However, it was horribly written. There's no purpose to the scene except to look cool. And while watching it with friends and family, it just doesn't hold up, and it's kind of awkward to look and watch. That said, there's a lot to like about this movie. Cinematography is perfect, pitch perfect. The soundtrack, a rock soundtrack by The Score, who is a band you guys should listen to, is super cheesy. But it is so fun and hard not to enjoy. This movie's bad, but it's enjoyably bad, like all Michael Bay movies, for the most part. Dàjá Vú. Now, when I see this movie and I see how it was made and everything, it's pretty mediocre. However, the writing is where this movie stands out the most, and their take on time travel is very interesting. It's not necessarily like anything you've ever seen. It's at first has a sense of dread and maybe of mystery to it. But in the third act, that's where it starts getting real good. Because even though the sci-fi there dips a little bit, the story actually gets into play and actually starts moving along. I remember just sitting in my seat watching this movie, just thinking, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? It's very at the edge of your seat towards the end. And I think that's all due to the great writing near the end. The actors are pretty good, but I mean, they don't do mind-blowing performances in there. And I know this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but the story is very, very slow in the beginning. It's only the third act where it picks up.
Now, in the past, you've seen some of my favorites, like Blade Runner, Baby Driver, Her. Those are all amazing movies that I love. However, this isn't my favorite movie. And now, I will show you my favorite movie. Do you hear something? Oh no, here it comes.
Dark Knight. Now everybody said something about this movie. Everyone has. But I'm trying to do my best to do something a little different. I do believe this is not really a story about Batman, but of Gotham itself, which makes this more interesting as a Batman movie, if you know what I mean. Though the story and themes are very dark, I feel like the way it's filmed is in a hopeful way, not simply just dark, 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 and trying to show that this is an ugly world, but trying to give us hope. I feel like Batman movies don't really get that. They're kind of angsty and they try to make you feel like, oh yes, this is the Batman. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just dark for the sake of being dark. Before Sunrise. Now, as I said before with Her, what makes a good romance is the connection that we feel between the two characters. And that's what this movie is totally about. It's about connection. It's about that rush you feel when you meet somebody you feel like you have a connection with. The dialogue also really just captures you, because basically this movie is just about two people talking, so you have to have really good dialogue. And what I also like about this movie is just, it's not one side. It's not just from the boy's perspective, not just about the girl's perspective. They feel like there's two real people connecting, and that's all due to the writing team letting both male and female put their voice into the movie. And when I walk out of this movie, I just feel like so happy and so loved, you know? That's how I feel.
Spoilers, I'm not gonna give any spoilers, okay? You can chill. No spoilers.
Wonder Woman 1984. Okay, straight off the bat, I think this movie is incredible. First, I am required to talk about our lead character, Gal Gadot, for Wonder Woman. The only way I can describe how she plays this role is like Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man and Chris Evans as Captain America. She's grown into this role so well, and you just feel like this is her character. This is Wonder Woman. What I find interesting is the action, because it's not like most movies, you know, there's very little action, but when the action's there, it shows character. It shows who's in screen, who's fighting, why they're doing it. It's very, very character-based. But the villain, Maxwell Lord, is probably my favorite part of the movie. His arc is so emotional, and you didn't expect it, but he's so good, and even the actor. Pedro Pascal, I've never seen anything except The Mandalorian from him, but he is amazing in this role. Kristen Wiig as Cheetah, didn't really expect much from this, but it was really good. I've given it 90% only just because her CGI in the last battle was dodgy and just didn't look really good at all. But in terms of anything else in this movie, you really get to understand why she fights and really get to feel bad for her when she doesn't really get what she wants.
Spoilers! Get out of here!
Alright, so the third act scene, where Wonder Woman finally catches up to Maxwell Lord, and she tries to convince the world to retract their wishes. There's a song that plays, and it's the same song from Batman vs. Superman when the Waynes were killed. Dude, it's the same song. They just put it into this movie, and it's so good. I don't know why, but it's so compelling, especially for this scene where it's about loss. Whatever Patty Jenkins was thinking, this was incredible, and I loved